at the camp. Today on Amusing Minds. Guys, let's talk about a theory I have. Maybe a conspiracy theory? Oh, the Illuminati. What? You gotta make fun of me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, shove your face with food. Shove it.
So hungry.
Today on Amusing Minds, we talk about the theories, the crazy theories, with Charlie Geiser. Well, you see, with these theories, we're going to go on a ledge. We're going to go way out there. Or is it that far out there? Is it that weird? What do you guys think?
I think when you say ledge, really what you mean is we're gonna dive deep. So yeah, it's a big ledge, and I think when we're done with this, you're gonna be in one of two camps. You're gonna be either in the camp where you're enlightened and you feel like you've learned something, or you're gonna be in the camp where you're like, what just happened? Somebody get me a cigarette because I need to smoke.
Yeah. Running along those lines. What do you think? Oh, wake up, Ben.
I mean, if we mention the word conspiracy theory, it drums up a lot of different feelings for me. When the word conspiracy theory comes up, I get a lot of different kinds of feelings. I think that some conspiracy theories can be quite dangerous, and should be really careful about it. But I know that Charlie is a great storyteller, and I know that what he's going to get into feels like a conspiracy theory, but it's not the kind of conspiracy theory that I think we associate with kind of how the public mind's eye looks at conspiracy theory recently. If we look at the last year and the way people talk about conspiracy theory, I don't think that's what this is. This is more like grandiose philosophy and storytelling on a scale that is going to just be really cool. Because I know Charlie, and I know the kinds of things that he talks about, and really what it relates better to me. The conspiracy theory is just sort of like world creation in fiction, or universe creation in fiction. When you want to author a story and you have to create the world around that story. I remember I was helping out at a music festival, and it's a band nerd thing. It wasn't a cool music festival; it was a nerdy music festival. But I was helping out by keeping records for judges and stuff, and I got really bored, so I started just kind of scrolling on a pad. And started just sort of building my own little universe, and what are the physics like, and what are the planets like, and how did creation happen, and just sort of built a fiction of a fictional universe. And I started writing on a story a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. But I feel like I think almost everybody thinks about that, right? Am I weird, or does everybody kind of think, just sort of dream about how did things start, or how does the world work, and pursue that curiosity?
No. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, everyone dreams. Everyone, kids, adults, elderly people, animals dream. I mean, everyone dreams. It's like we're on some magical wavelength where we go to a special land where it's like, oh man, anything I can think about or anything that's going on up here just kind of gets settled one way or another. Yeah, it's kind of weird. And well,
we should get our tinfoil hats ready then.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Rodney, you got anything else to say?
I think that when we look back at it, like things that happen to us, and how people look at these conspiracy theories and this grander view of life, I can think of a number of times where I question like my own existence, my religion, and my way and perception of the world. So I think it'll be fun to dive into that stuff and see what Charlie has to offer on that, and see what we can't derive from the conversation.
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to it. So let's get right into it after this break.
Cool.
Boom. How did that? That felt good. And today on Amusing Minds, our guest, Charlie Geiser. Charlie, how are you?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Good. So, Charlie, we were kind of talking about some theories we had, and well, we thought you might have something to kind of add. What do you think?
I mean, there are countless. Do you got a broad range here? Because I can go into world history, ancient history. I can go into religions. I can go into comic books. I can go into movies. I can go whatever you want, my man.
You're giving him a lot of elbow room here.
Exactly. Well, it's a broad subject.
Yeah.
People want to spread their wings and fly. So, Charlie, what's your favorite, like recently, what's your favorite conspiracy theory?
I'm going to need more water.
Everyone drink, hydrate.
Favorite conspiracy theory. See, that the problem with the word conspiracy theory is that conspiracy theories have become a conspiracy theory in today's day and age. It's become harder and harder to decipher fact from fiction as we get older, which is wild. But I think probably the favorite one that I pitch the most is the secret of life and the connection of all world cultures.
Okay, so
tell us more.
Yeah,
I want to know the secret to life.
That's a lot to unpack there, because is it like a religious thing? Is it a cultural thing? Elaborate.
Yes, to both of those. So I mean, you guys have heard me go on at length about this before. Kate likes to say, "Don't drink my Kool-Aid. I don't get on the boat to Guyana." And I'm not signing up anybody to be my what did Jesus have, disciples?
Yeah,
I'm not accepting any disciples at this time. So understand that this is all fictional. It's all up here. And I'm going to say some crazy things like, this is real history. Go ahead and look it up on Google. Just a story.
Okay.
Regale us with your story.
Maybe do your own research on it. Okay, so long story short here, too late already. This is probably going to take more time than I wanted to. Charlie, get to the point. This is the rule of plus or minus 7. Okay, so in every culture throughout the world, there is a group of plus or minus 7. The most widely accepted are the Greek gods, so Zeus and his pantheon, the plus or minus 7. If you go into Christian lore, you've got their plus or minus 7, Jesus and his disciples. You've got the archangels and the plus or minus 7 there. But really, if you go down into any culture, they've all got that. Egypt has it with their plus or minus 7 cultures. Plus or minus 7 people. So this is where you draw a lot of the conclusions that, maybe Zeus and Odin are the same guy, that maybe Michael and Odin are the same guy, maybe Quetzalcoatl and Odin are the same friggin' dude, and so on, and Amun-Ra and the like, because there's a shared narrative across the entire pantheon of gods. To the point where it's a little hard to sustain the belief that it's all just coincidence and tinfoil hat.
Everybody put your foil hats on. Here it comes.
No, so here's the thing. I've heard of this before, and I even tend to agree with the idea of this theory. Oh, so yeah. It like sounds like it's really deep, but you can almost line them up verbatim for each one.
Beat for beat.
Yep. And like, it's not even that far a stretch of a theory. I would argue though, that stories, they derive from the same place, but I also think that the intentions of what those stories are created for are, and this is where I get deep in the conspiracy theory, is that they're already derived inside of us. So like when people say like the 10 commandments and things like different tenets of rule and how to live your life, they always seem to baseline around the same thing. And I think that they're part of, like, they're ingrained in our psyche. So we already know these things without having these textbooks and religions and belief systems. It's already there, and we share it. We just interpret it differently.
So you're not wrong. Rodney, but what if I told you I had these cats all mapped out?
Go on.
So there is one distinct difference. If I have one superpower in this entire world, it's my pattern recognition.
Okay.
Beautiful mind. Yeah.
I'm probably on the spectrum, but
Who isn't really? Who is not on the spectrum? Just like playing video games half the times, you're like, no, it's simple, it's easy. Yeah, but anyway, I digress.
So there is one distinct difference between all of these dudes,
Okay.
and that is their age. And by taking in their age, by how they're reported to look from the cultures that talk about them, you can actually line up a timeline, and it circles and equates with the now disproven theory of Pangea. So it may not have been Pangea exactly, but something along those lines, right? So for South America, because this is actually where it really starts to take place in South America, because all of their gods, the Aztecs, Incans, Mayans, all of their gods were super young, super buff dudes, super young. And where were they in those cultures? They were hanging out with them, right? They were playing soccer with people's heads, high-fiving each other, passing on knowledge. But they were young. They were super young.
Okay.
Then you move up into North America, and now they're a little bit older, but they're no longer hanging out with them anymore. Right? They're off in the forest somewhere. You send your children off at 12 years old to go have a vision quest.
Yeah, I was going to say visions is what they kind of appeared in, and dreams.
Yeah. So you take that native culture and then you move it on over into, oh my God, I'm dropping the name.
Like the Berings, not Alaska area?
Odin Thor.
Oh, okay.
That's
like
that
Finland,
group.
Greenland.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we move in that direction. And what we've got is they're a little bit older now, but they're still young because they have color in their beards and they're shorter looking beards, right?
Oh, okay.
And now they no longer exist on Earth. They've moved across some sort of spiritual dimension. And different cultures call it differently, but they called it the Rainbow Bridge in that culture, right?
Okay.
But it leads up to some big old mountain spires, right? So the next one you see is you move on over into the Eastern Bloc. And the Eastern Bloc is Russian culture, it's Japanese culture, Chinese culture, Filipino, all that Eastern Bloc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what you have now is, again, still color in the beards, but they're a little bit longer. And here is a super big kicker. Their stories are about this group of ±7 no longer sharing information with the humans, but they're fighting with each other. There's a war going on between the spirits, right? These ±7, whatever you want to call them, angels, spirits, interdimensional beings, what have you. So then the very next culture, as we circle around the planet, is the Greek pantheon, which is the Zeus. And what's the story in that? Is that they just finished a war. They locked up the Titans.
Oh,
so it's the end to that story where the war was fought. Some group won, and then one was imprisoned, the other one won. And you're going to see this trend continue because now we have separated into dark and light. So now we move into that Middle Eastern quadrant, and it kind of separates and deviates into Africa a little bit here, where so Egypt is still actually actively trading with Greece and South America, as well as a couple of the areas there. So Africa is that one region where a lot of the stuff really starts to intermix, but the narrative continues into that Middle Eastern region, which is the foundation what's his friggin' name? Zoroastrianism. You guys know about Zoroastrianism?
Heard it, but I cannot recall a thing.
So Zoroastrianism is one of the world's oldest religions, along with Hinduism, right? And so Zoroastrianism is cavemen, humans, right? And they're like sun god, moon god. Again, that deviation, that light and dark, right? But anybody that's played Ark for more than 15 minutes knows that nighttime, bad. Sun, good, right? God, nighttime is scary. Don't go out there. It's bad. People die. Cool. So anyway, so here's where we're at. We're in Zoroastrianism, and their version of these gods slowly change into Judaism, which is highly documented, obviously. And then Judaism eventually turns into Christianity 1.0. And then Catholicism comes in, and they we're the only Christianity. And so they kill Christianity 1.0, kind of start taking over the world a little bit. And then Christianity 2.0 comes into play, and they're like, you guys are way too uptight. We're going to go start our own religion with beer and hookers. But the narrative is all the same, right? And the narrative is this. They all share this one character that comes down from a mountain, of all places, from a spiritual world, carrying tablets with a set of rules on it. And this guy, as reported by all of these different religions, is somewhere upwards of 400 years old. And he comes down and he's just like, dude, I'm the last of my kind here. This is what we were trying to tell you all these millennia of years. Just be good to each other. And then he dies, right? So it's not ended yet. So now in that same region is the birth of King Solomon, and he builds this city off of all of this knowledge and builds this huge kingdom with a collection of all of this knowledge. And then once he dies, and again, this is a completely fabricated story. Don't you dare go and look up this stuff for your own on Google. Free. You can go to Google free. Won't charge you a dime. And so if you look up King Solomon, you find out that when his kingdom, when he died, his kingdom was cut up into plus or minus 7 groups and information separated.
Well, and you think about all the seals of Solomon. Why did he have those seals? I mean, we recently looked up Sheba. Sheba had visited, King Solomon because of his riches and fames, and was like, hey, like, what you got going on here? And she was supposedly a deity as well. So it's like, And I remember growing up, and I always thought, I was like, God, G-O-D, capital G. Man, that guy's just a scientist. He's just like some guy that came here and is like, hey, I got an experiment. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create these little people, and let's see what happens. And it's like, oh, well, this is a lot of work. So, hey, you guys want to come over here? You watch them. I'm gonna go over, there, and you guys make sure they don't kill each other, and I'll see you
wild,
the end of days.
I grew up in that same culture, my man. It's I grew up a cradle Catholic, and I'm not meaning to.
Oh
to
no. No one should be offended here. This is just love.
Maybe a disclaimer. Again, I'm just a crazy guy, tinfoil hat on, right? But
hold on, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Also, I don't give it if somebody's offended. But you can only take offense. It can only be taken, not given. So anyway, so what you got this grand scheme going on that you think it derives from a location, wraps around to the other. There are a few things that I wonder about, which I want to elaborate on later, as far as like there's other African cultures that predate some of that stuff. But more importantly, what are you saying as far as this centralized source, this starting point? What's your theory? What's your hypothesis? Are you saying that it was one group of people? Are you saying it might be, beings from another place? Like, what are we talking here?
This is the part, right? This is the part where this is gonna sound a little wild, but I'm fairly convinced of it. And I can explain. I'm going to make a pretty wacky claim, and I can explain. I don't believe that it is gods or aliens or interdimensional beings. I think that we are currently sharing a world with sentient energy.
Well, that would be another dimensional being, but okay.
Not in the term that I would describe interdimensional beings.
Okay, so sentient energy would be an energy that exists on our plane of existence, but we can't perceive it until it wants to be perceived.
Oh no, we can actually perceive it. We're using it
spectral?
right now.
Oh, okay.
Like a spectral being, like something that's beyond our sight.
No. It's not as crazy as that.
Okay.
It's not crazy.
We're
going to call it because are crazy.
Are you Okay, so question, because like there's something with this that I think correlates with one of my crazy concepts. You familiar with like Final Fantasy VII particularly, or Final Fantasy? Okay, so
Yeah,
materia.
and that's exactly it.
Okay, then we're on the same page. I would define it differently than sentient energy, but I think, well, in my head, we're all connected through this like wavelength because it breaks down all the way to the atomic level where nothing is not touching in theory. Like everything is connected through electrons. I'm oversimplifying what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no,
But
absolutely.
The fact that we're all connected through electrons means that we can send electrical signals constantly to each other. It's just a matter of being able to do it and the access to the interweb that is us.
What's more is I can prove it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
This is getting good.
So there are 3 different fictional universes that use something similar. You've already covered one, Final Fantasy and the Materia.
Okay.
Star Wars got close with the Force.
Okay.
It was a little wonky when they were like, oh yeah, midichlorian. Yeah, you didn't have to give it a name. But that's close. But then the third one is actually, and again, real wild here, is Scientology. They got close.
Okay.
They're not in the ballpark, but they're close. So here's my proof that I offer to you. Have you seen? So this takes a little bit of understanding to know that plants are actually sentient and communicate with each other.
It's the smell of grass when it's cut. They're screaming, you know. That's what it is. Grass is scent, is grass screaming, alerting other grass of danger.
lawn culture is torture.
That, so I know it's true.
Their root systems actually are where they communicate. And so have you guys ever seen the what is the name of it? The picture of the eyes and the brain with the little root system inside of us.
Spaghetti God or whatever.
No. It's us. Like you take a skin, bone, meat.
The nervous system?
Nervous system. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So pattern recognition is my bag.
Mm-hmm.
And there is another correlation that is beyond just coincidence. And so you've got our nervous system, you've got roots, you've got rivers, and you've got lightning that all make the same exact pattern. And lightning, energy, and then you find out that roots and our nervous system and rivers are all following the path of least resistance. Right? And it's all being guided because energy attracts each other. That's why it's the path of least resistance. And so that's 4 very real things that share a common bond. And so with knowing that, it kind of leads credence to the fact that we are in fact part of this sentient energy piloting carbon meat suits.
Okay.
We quite literally are interacting in real time, which explains why when you meet someone that you've never met before and you're like, I don't like this guy. I don't like this guy. I've got no reason not to like this guy. But God, I've got just a wild feeling.
The gut feeling.
That gut feeling is that energy is already communicating. Versus if you see someone you don't know, but you're like, oh my God, this dude's awesome. He's like a brother already. Now, here's the kicker. Batteries, energy, do this weird thing when you line them up with each other. They're cycling through each other, right? So if you've got a battery that is empty, put a really powerfully charged battery next to it, it's going to start feeding it, but it's out of cycle. And so you're sharing the energy and collecting the energy that is responding to you. And you're essentially just trading energy back and forth until you're no longer growing as a person. And now people that loved each other 15, 16 years ago separate because that energy is no longer holding them together. They have already completely gone through that cycle.
Polarized. And you're awfully quiet over there.
No, the like feeling a person out, like whatever you first or getting a sense of a person when you first meet them. Vibes. Yeah, vibes is kind of the same thing, but I distinctly can remember so many times because I mean, you know, we go to how many comic conventions? All of us here go to so many conventions. I mean, not recently, but you get my meaning. And so there's so many people going by all the time, and you meet so many people. And yeah, there are those times where I see a person and I'm like, no, don't like that one. But then, like at Emerald City, and I saw two people dressed up like fish, and I was like, those people are awesome, and I'm going to go talk to them and tell them how awesome they are. And that was Charlie and Kate.
So now I already know Rodney's next question. How does what I just said relate to the +or-7?
Yep. Okay.
What's the correlation?
Rodney's like, yeah, sure, indeed.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to do. Yeah.
I've got to show my math, right?
Okay. I'm tracking. Go ahead. Follow.
Okay. So it's important to remember that this is over billions of years.
Okay.
And there weren't as many humans as there are now. And so this original sentient energy, and you can see it as time goes on, was one full battery. This energy comprised itself 100%. And then there's the apes that don't have that sentience within them. Do you know what I mean? They're just carbon. They're just moving around. Okay. And so these are the beings at their prime. They are 100%. But now they're sharing it with the rest of the world as it is, and they're slowly dropping 199% over a billion years, right? I'm making up time. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Anyway, so over the period of going in that circle around, they're sharing all of this knowledge and energy, and you see a trend of ape men becoming very intelligent and very human. And that's as that energy from these +or-7 are slowly trickling into the carbon, those what was the word?
Nervous system?
Nervous system?
The nervous system is reaching out, and we're evolving, following that path of
when your hand reaches out.
Now, what you've got is over time, again, once we get to that Moses character, these energy beings are no longer full up anymore. And so they are now just tied to the ether, circling through humanity, trapped, if you will, inside of the carbon that they've been sharing themselves with.
Are you saying that we got a little God in us? A little God.
So we all share it. It's our spirit, if you will, our soul.
Hold you guys.
Anyway, so that Moses character comes down and goes, "Hey man, I'm the last," and dies ether. Again, 400 odd years old. Now, we can feel this right now. And what you've got is the energy inside of you, and every human being on this planet shares one distinct thing. Every single person on the planet has this. Do you know that hole inside that you can't explain what it is? That you're missing something? That you're missing a piece? That you're sad and you fill it with whatever, cigarettes, booze, women, what have you, men, I don't know. But we're all trying to fill that energy. We're collecting, we're starving for that reciprocal energy, which is why we have a lot of fun hanging out with friends and boosting up that energy and getting it. Oh my God, it's fantastic. And when you hang out with sad people that don't have energy that they can reciprocate as a battery does, they're draining you. Okay. And so the purpose, the meaning of life is to search for the remaining pieces of this energy that comprises you. We are all one. How many people in the world? 9 billion? Okay. We are all 1 in 9 billion fraction part of the +or-7. There are 7 distinct energy types as they flow through all of us. And sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes it polarizes. And so you're looking to reform into your complete 100% 1 in 7. And the proof is here. Every so often, by math says that no matter how permeated your parts are, by sheer random chance, you will eventually come back together. And it's not so much random chance because the energy innately comes back together just by walking around. So the more experience you have with the world, the more energy you're collecting in on yourself. If you stay in one group of people and never make any other friends and hang out with like-minded individuals, you're not actually gaining any energy from that. And so over the course of 1,000 years, 2,000 years, every now and again, there gets a guy that's close, not 100%, but they get to like 40, 50%, and they start getting memories of a past life. They get to 60, 70, and now they're starting to unlock secrets of fucking universe, and they come back and they're like, holy shit, guys, we're doing it wrong. Oh my God. And those characters throughout time are in fact freaking Yeshua, Jesus for Christian types. You've got Buddha, you've got Muhammad, you've got John the Baptist. There's quite a few in Egypt. Ra eventually became Amun Ra. Thoth, Thoth.
Oh,
Thoth.
God, I knew how.
Thoth, thank you. So if you read into Thoth at all, he was a human being that became a god by collection of knowledge. He's a librarian.
Oh, yeah.
So over the course of every 1,000 years or so, you end up remembering who you were. One of the seven.
Okay, so now I'm curious. This is where I ask you to question things about your theory. So, if I'm not mistaken, you said prior to the 7, it was originally one source, one battery, right?
Yes.
And then it split. Okay. Why did the initial battery split?
I'm not entirely sure we'll ever know. I guess I could quote Jeff Goldblum that life finds a way. Maybe in the creation of Earth, the poles as they shift. We're slowly forcing them apart. There's a bunch of different scientific reasons that would do that.
Pull apart the energy.
I have a theory. So, God comes down, creates all this cool stuff. Pangaea is not entirely done splitting apart, but he's like, hey, so as a scientist, I want to experiment here. I'm going to take these individuals, I'm going to raise them in this manner. Take these individuals, raise them in this manner, these individuals this way. And then, kind of check in on them periodically through my other pieces that I've created. And that way, I'll know what's going on. I can see which technique is the best way to inspire or cause fear or bring together or war, something like that.
I'm not sure what story you were listening to, Bud, but God doesn't actually fit in my story or narrative very well.
I know, but we said one battery, yeah? That's what I'm saying.
So,
God was the one battery. No?
Hold on. Here's the thing. I think that his is more. It's like the split and the differences in people. It derives from the dividing of information. Whereas yours is more, what you're saying is more centralized, is whereas one being, person, or thing is being very active in the decisions they're making. And I think
there's no DM in the universe, no.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what he's saying. Like the residual effects of what we have resulted to as far as different religions, cultures, and other things is just because we've divided so much. And I mean, that's the telephone game on a grander scale.
Oh, yeah.
It fits very well. I don't know how many times I've told somebody something and my message got really construed by the time it got to the person it was supposed to. So I think that's more in line with what he's saying. And I think that's actually more in line with what makes logical sense, is like people just mix up the message. And then everyone... Go ahead.
I think...
my bad.
I think the division of information is pretty natural. It's a habitual thing for us as beings to divide up information, because what's some of our favorite things to do? We like to create things, right? Any number of things. We want to make stuff. But what do you want to do with it after you make it? You want to share it with somebody, right? We have this innate habitual desire to share things that we have made, whether it's an idea or something physical, whatever it is, and then share it with somebody else. Their interpretation of whatever that is can be one way or the other. It's up for interpretation. So it's one way or the other. So a division of information is completely natural just by way of our own habits. So if you have this one unified energy at one point, of course it's going to get broken up as we, grab from it and then go, okay, well, I think this and I have this idea, or I made this here. I want to share this with you and tell you about it. And all of a sudden one thing became two, and then subdivide and subdivide. Mathematically, you get to impossible numbers the more you divide it up.
It's wild, right? Because it's very human to be localized like we are, right? And so we like to have a hard start date, right? So again, as it approaches Earth, right, as it lands on Earth or forms with Earth, or however it actually started, we like to count that clock right there. Like that's the start. That's the guy that created, and that's not actually anywhere close to what happened. I mean, speak to any scientist with friggin' that same energy that I'm talking about is universal energy. It's out in space. It's traversing
Stardust.
time. Yeah,
So theories like this is an interesting, and I kind of have to say this, especially if we have religious viewers or any other person, because it's funny you're getting into this. It's great. I want to talk to you for like 8 more hours on this topic, because I have all these religion and lore books. Like I literally own almost every religious book.
I do.
I try to read through all of them. I haven't read through every single one of them, but my thought process, as far as like, I even like the energy thing that you're talking about. I think is very within the realms of still allowing for the possibility of a God, quote unquote. But I think that most people want to centralize God to be Earth, and I think if there was a God, if you believe in a God, which I do, but I don't believe it in the stereotypical creator.
Sure.
I think that God was at the beginning of the universe, not the Earth, and because that would have to be that makes more sense purely on a scientific level, like to me at least. And,
well,
and a God,
zero way to prove that or disprove it.
Exactly, but that I think some of the things you were talking about, like that feeling of emptiness, that interwoven connectedness, that constantly striving towards certain things. I think all of that, and I think I said it earlier, is it derives from this inner information that we have that we quite can't pinpoint what it is, but we all seem to share it. And I think part of that also might be our creation. I think we long for that figure that created us because something's supposed to be there.
Well, and it's great that you bring that up. And I'm sorry to cut you off, man. I'm really bad about that. So I've got a friend who recently struggled with his attachment to religion. And as I'm talking with him, and I shared my theories with him, and he's coming up with his own path, and I'm super proud of him. He came across the realization that he just wanted it so bad to have somebody responsible for his actions, and that's a very human thing. It's so much easier to go, oh well, I'm just a bad person. That's the way I was created. Oh, if I'm designed a certain way.
I get that perspective, but I think that's where some people get trapped too, because like I said, like I believe in a God, but I also don't think the God I believe in really cares about the individual need. Like my actions and what I do in my existence are purely on me. Like that's me. But to say that a creator doesn't exist also doesn't compute with me, because even as a human, even in this basic form, everything that I can perceive is created from something. So even on a scientific level, I look at things and nothing came from nothing. But we also know there is an origin where nothing came from nothing. Something came from nothing.
Yes.
So it's one of those things. I think people get trapped in certain religions and ideologies where they want to have this God they pray to, or this God that can save them, or this God that can fix them because they're broken. And that's where I tend to disagree. I think, if anything, it's more in line with an energy where it's like, hey, we have all the information. We just got to get that stuff together, And
you're not wrong. And I would say this as well. Another form of energy that we can look at today. Again, more science, and I really try and tie all of my theories to either a math or a science. Fire doesn't really come from anywhere. It just manifests.
Yep.
The conditions were right and it came into being. And that, in my mind, is how the universe started. Was just there was in fact nothing, and then that manifestation like a flame, and everything was born from that initial flame.
But flame, to get a flame, there has to be an initial spark.
It has to be a spark.
That's the conditions that I think Charlie was talking about. If the conditions are right, but that doesn't mean that somebody made a spark. It just means that the conditions were right for it to happen.
Correct.
Well, so here's the thing. You guys keep saying somebody. And I think that in itself is where people have the issues. People want to embody this entity of God.
Oh, people love a narrative.
Even any level of equivalent to us. But we know from our scientific observations that there's stuff we can't perceive, even down to just basic stuff like colors. We only can see so many colors, but we know for a fact there is a spectrum outside of our ability to perceive them. So to limit our existence, to me, this is where I fight with it, and I think a lot of people fight with it, especially when they grow up religious, is to limit our existence, to say that it's completely random and not have all the information is just as extreme as to say that it was created by something. But all the evidence that we currently have in our ability to observe everything that we know says that something cannot come from nothing. There has to be something there. Like, even with fire, you have to ignite the flame. The spark has to be created. So you can't have nothing. So there has to be a centralized source.
So there's a void. There's dark energy, right?
But darkness is only the absence of light.
For sure. And there's a bunch of stuff out there that we don't quite understand yet or have even seen, right? But I have mold growing in my house because the conditions were just correct. I'm quite certain, and this is just speculation, that you end up having freaking this void, right? And then freaking again, I'm really reaching here just to give you an example.
I mean, we all are.
But let's say microparticles start clinging to each other. Again, this energy, microparticle. It's not energy yet, but in this vacuum of space, it's just existing. That's what it was. There doesn't have to be a creation. There doesn't.
There does, though, because they had to come from somewhere. Like, you can't have something with nothing. Like, as far as we know, even
as far as we know.
And that's the thing. Even like antimatter is still matter. Like, it's just on a different wavelength.
This is the argument.
Yeah.
It's chicken or the egg for most people. They're like, oh, it has to be chicken or the egg. It has to.
The egg came first.
It had to have, right? Had to. But
the egg came first.
This is where the third part of this crazy tinfoil hat theory comes from.
Chapter 3. Go.
Chapter 3. Ghosts, as we see them as real ghost hunters have interpreted. What are some of the actual ghost hunter tools that we use?
They're usually tools to measure light and like
audio,
radiation, audio. Yeah, energy. They're
energy. Cold spots in the room. What happens when you walk through an energy wave? You get cold.
I did it.
So, understanding that time overlaps on itself. What you have, you guys know about the balloon experiment and the spray paint. You guys did that in school, right? I'm not the only one that did that in school. Okay.
Explain.
So if you take a balloon and fill it with spray paint, it's going to blow up. And if you undo the tie, what happens to the spray paint?
It blows out.
It slowly comes out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, if you don't release it and you blow up the balloon with spray paint and you pop it, what happens to the spray paint?
No idea.
It stays in the shape of the balloon for a microsecond.
Oh yeah, I've seen those super slow-mo videos, like when they fill it with water and stuff like that. Those are really, really cool. I just wanted to say that.
That spray paint is following the path of least resistance, again, our energy pattern. And that is effectively what's happening with humans and our energy when we die. If we die slow, hospital bed, it's like somebody releasing the tie, and our energy just goes out peaceful into the ether and part and mixes with everything that's around us. But if we are murdered, that is violent. So violent that it's able to fracture time. And it leaves an impression of that human being reliving its last few moments, that microsecond. But because it has traversed time, we, on our plane of existence, our understanding of time as humans, see it as I just saw a ghost in that hallway in 2005, 2006, 2007. You can go back there, time 30 years later, and there's this ghost that people just see for a microsecond or capture on film. And that's because it has shattered throughout time for that brief instance. But you can't go there at like 12 o'clock on Saturday and see that ghost sighting, because it's not how real time works. That's human time. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how it ties into the rest of the theory. This is my hypothesis. There's zero way to prove it. You guys seen that episode of Futurama?
Which one? There's been a few.
Mars well that ends well.
Names. I like names. Don't remember names too much, but I like them.
Sorry, Roswell that ends well.
Oh, God. Oh.
It's the episode where Fry becomes his own grandfather.
I'm my own grandpa. No.
Hypothetically, because I can't prove it, what if we are our own grandfather? What if that flame manifested and it was so impactful, just like a murder with a human being, that it shattered time and ended up manifesting the original flame?
I mean, that's hard to do, though, because some people, like, how does that work with a grandfather being alive at the same time as their grandchild?
Well, that's only if you accept time as linear.
True.
I quite literally only use that as a reference point to bring you guys back down to a base. Obviously, all of this requires an absolute physicist to understand and explain in a paper.
Well, I mean, I could. There's some stuff I could see. Actually, our existences could also be a thing where we are essentially experiencing life from every perspective, but we're all one entity, which is another weird thing that you could do. But yeah, all in all, this is some crazy stuff. Like, this is a 8-hour, freaking 2 days of like, let's really get deep into it. Let's do some math.
Oh yeah. Charlie has
the stipulation here is that I'm not trying to offend anybody. This is a fictional story.
Yeah, this is
by me.
Entertainment purposes.
Really fun.
Where does fiction begin?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. This is Dungeons and Dragons, but for the real world.
Where does fiction begin?
Do not get on my boat to Guyana. Don't drink the friggin' Kool-Aid. Google is your friend. Go prove me wrong.
Well, Charlie,
digging in deeper. That's what we're doing.
We're definitely gonna have to get you on for later episodes to discuss all our fun theories and whatnot. But
sure.
yeah, we want to thank you for joining us today, and well, we hope that you'll want to come back.
I'm sorry that I talked the whole time. There was like one question, and then Charlie talks a lot. The movie,
but that's what's perfect. That means we can ask other question and then other question. And yeah, means you'll have to see more of our faces. So, yeah.
That's fine. Anytime. This timing's perfect. So,
see, there you go. Thank you, Charlie, again for talking with us. And we're going to take a quick break and get back to our final thought. Doo-doo. That was, I don't know. Time felt too slow, but too long. I don't know. My head is everywhere after that one.
After listening to that, I have to question what is time, and what is our understanding of time. Basically, that entire conversation just melted my brain and altered some perceptions. I think that after this conversation, we've expanded our minds, not just around origins of the universe or the different relations of all cultures and religions and historical context, but even time travel and ghosts, like, and it all relates back to energy and where does energy go and how does energy affect everything in our lives, in the universe. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson, when asked what happens when we die, said, well, over the course of our lives, and I'm paraphrasing, over the course of our lives, we take in all this energy. And then, at some point when we die, that energy has to go somewhere. And that's pretty much all he said. And that was a really good sort of nutshell of that grand concept that this story that Charlie gave us, is that there's energy everywhere and it has to go somewhere, and it does connect everything together, and that's the grand conspiracy, is that everything's connected.
Yeah, it was a deep episode, and it was fun. It was encourageable, and I really think that we need to step away after this conversation, and maybe us as well as our listeners, really question, what is your existence? Really question your belief systems. Really take a look into how you perceive the world, and maybe step beyond that just a bit. Explore some ideas, play with some thoughts. And that doesn't mean that you have to discount what beliefs you already have, but it does mean maybe challenge them. So I would say, I really think we need to look at ourselves and just really think about it,
Yeah. For me, it literally is just about man's quest for knowledge, their quest to find out who they are in the grand scheme of things, to find out why things happen, what things happen to get us here. It's trying to bring everything together. Literally, you want everything to be complete and you to know what it is, because, the mysteries of the universe, they're mysteries for a reason. I mean, we're still exploring man's ever-loving quest to explore knowledge, minds, brains. They're all pieces of maybe here. But that's for another episode. We'll figure that out in the next episode. So we just want to thank everyone for coming, listening, watching. If you are on our YouTube channel, you can check us out on Facebook. Leave us some messages. Leave us some comments and likes on YouTube. Go ahead. I mean, they're there for a reason. If you want to check us out on Anchor.fm, we can listen to some audio voice messages leave us and, hit our microphones. But anyway, thank you guys for coming. Our next episode, we're going to talk to Josh and Lynn. Correct? Josh and Lynn? Yes? Okay. And we're going to talk about fanfics and headcanon, which is apropos for what we just went through. We had our headcanon blown. So see you guys next week or next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye.